whole. Today we are here to talk about Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat and its importance. Now, when we talk about Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, there are different ideas that come to our head. Of course, India is a land of multicultural diversity. We have different kinds of people who have had different kinds of ideas, different kinds of cultures, and different kinds of backgrounds. इस सारी हिस्ट्री के बीच में बिटवीन ऑल ऑफ दीज आइडियाज एंड हमारी जितनी भी तमाम ज़बानें हैं उन सब के बीच में वी हैव मैनेज टू क्रिएट अ फॉर्म ऑफ यूनिटी डिस्पाइट आवर डिफरेंसेस एंड यस इट मे बी पॉसिबल दैट वी डिफर in our skin color, it may be possible that we differ in our beliefs, but yet we come together when the time calls for it. With this, I would like to welcome Siraj Wali Sahab, the coordinator of CEC, to please give the inaugural address. Thank you so much.
आपका ऑडियो ऑफ है।
Sir,
Siddharth sir,
आपका
please
mic.
unmute your mic.
अब तो आवाज़ आ रही है?
जी सर.
जी सर।
हाँ, महिबुल्लाह साहब, मुकर्रम सदर यूनिवर्सिटी लिटरेरी और डिबेटिंग क्लब, और अजीज़ों, अब्दुल्ला सरकार ने अभी कहा कि हमारी जो एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत से मुताल्लिक़ पेयर इंस्टीट्यूशन है, उन अहबाब की ज़ियाफ़त के लिए ज़रूरी है कि हम इंग्लिश साइड ज़्यादा रहें। तो उनकी इत्तला के लिए अर्ज़ है कि राजीव गांधी यूनिवर्सिटी ईटानगर के जो वाइस चांसलर हैं और हमारे जो हम मनसब वहाँ हैं डॉक्टर शंभू साहब, ये दोनों लोग हमारे इतने करीबी हैं और हिंदी बेल्ट से हैं, हिंदी स्पीकिंग हैं, उर्दू खूब समझते हैं और वहाँ के अहबाब हमारी ज़बान समझते हैं। और एक बहुत ये बात हम शायद आपसे बार बार कहते हैं कि मोहब्बतों की जो ज़बान होती है वो पूरी दुनिया में समझी जाती है और पूरी दुनिया में उस पर इजहार भी होता है, और हम इसीलिए ज़िंदा हैं कि हम मोहब्बत की ज़बान बोलते हैं। और समझ लीजिए कि जिस दिन हमने मोहब्बत की ज़बान बोलना छोड़ दी उसी दिन हमारी मौत हो जाएगी, और हम नहीं चाहते कि हमारी मौत हो, कि हमारी मौत हमारी तहज़ीब, हमारी सकाफ़त, हमारे तमद्दुन, हमारे शिआर, हमारी पूरी जो पूरा सरमाया है उसकी मौत और उसके फ़ना और उसके अख्तिताम से इबारत है। और ये तो ये स्लोगन अपने आप में है, एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत। हिंदुस्तान को जन्नत निशान इसीलिए कहा जाता है कि यहाँ हर गुलेरा रंगो बुए दीगरस, फूल जो है एक फूल है, उसमें कितने रंग हैं, उसमें कितनी खुशबुएं हैं, और उन रंगों और उन खुशबुओं से माहौल जो बन रहा है वो एक ऐसे मुत्तहिद, एक ऐसे ज़बरदस्त और एक ऐसे ताकतवर इज्तिमाई सिलसिले का बन रहा है जिसका बहुत प्यारा सा नाम हिंदुस्तान है, जिसको इकबाल ने हमारे कहा था, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा। और यकीनन ये हिंदुस्तान अपनी बेइंतहा खुसूसियात की बिना पर और ख़ास तौर से अपनी नर्म मिजाजी, अपनी मोहब्बत, अपने जज्बे ईसार, अपने खुलूस और अपने सारी दुनिया में क़याम अमन की कोशिशों के सिलसिले में एक अलग मर्तबा रखता है। और हम इस तरह का जितना प्रोग्राम बनाते हैं, इस तरह के जितने इरादे करते हैं, उस सब में हमारे अहबाब से मतलब नया खून, ये जो हमारे सामने चेहरे चमक रहे हैं, अल्लाह इनकी चमक को बरकरार रखे और इनको हिंदुस्तान, मुस्तक़बिल के हिंदुस्तान की तामीर में अपना किरदार अदा करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए। इत्तेफाक से हमारे सामने जितने हैं सब नौजवान हैं या जवान हैं, यानी अब्दुल्ला सरकार से लेके और महिबुल हक तक ये सिलसिला है। उधर डॉक्टर शंभू भी माशाअल्लाह, तो जवानों का ये सिलसिला है और अल्लाह इनको अपनी जवानी को आफियत के साथ रखने और इस्तेमाल करने की ताकत अता करे। इकबाल का एक शेर सुनाता हूँ और इसी पर बात ख़त्म करता हूँ कि हया नहीं है ज़माने की आँख में बाकी, हया नहीं है ज़माने की आँख में बाकी, खुदा करे कि जवानी तेरी रहे बेदाग। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
माशाल्लाह, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर, दैट वाज अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम। और इतनी खुशी से आपने उर्दू के बारे में जो हमें बताया कि मुझे जान के बहुत खुशी हुई कि लोग यहाँ पे अभी भी उर्दू सुनेंगे, उर्दू समझेंगे। اینڈ اگر وہ نہ سمجھ پائیں تو آئی ایم پریٹی شیور کہ دے وڈ بی ایکولی فیسینیٹڈ بائی اٹ. ان کو بہت زیادہ انٹرسٹ آئے گا اینڈ دیٹ مے بیکم دا ریزن کہ ہو سکتا ہے وہ آگے چل کے علی گڑھ مسلم یونیورسٹی کا ایک دائر ضرور کریں. خیر اس کے ساتھ ہم آگے بڑھتے ہیں. میں انصب کو دعوت دینا چاہوں گا. انصب ہمارے پچھلے سال کے سیکریٹری بھی رہے ہیں, جو کہ وہ آئیں اور ذرا ایک بھارت شریشٹھ بھارت کے بارے میں اپنے ویوز کو سامنے رکھیں.
انصب بھائی آپ سے پہلے محیب صاحب پہلے ایڈریس کر دیں اس کو.
بالکل.
So,
Saikum, sir.
Good evening. Whether Ansab is speaking or I am speaking, you will not find any difference at all. That is what is, and there is no protocol at all. Coordinator Sahab has already welcomed all of you, or rather all of us, I should say, in a very good Urdu. You know that he is internationally known Urdu poet, critic, writer, and whatever adjective that you can use for him. And you will find that the people, those who are from the Urdu literature, they feel, they are always, scared whenever they see that Siraj Ajmali Sahab is sitting and here they have to speak in Urdu. اور جس وقت انہوں نے کہا کہ دوبارہ پڑھیے کسی سینٹینس کو یا شعر کو, تو سمجھیے رونگٹے کھڑے ہو جاتے ہیں. لوگ یہ نہیں سمجھتے کہ داد دینے کے لیے بھی کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ دوبارہ پڑھیے. تو ان کا مقرر ارشاد بھی جو ہوتا ہے وہ لوگ سمجھتے ہیں کہ کوئی غلطی ہو گئی ہے, تو یہ پرابلم رہتی ہے. Anyway, friends, first of all, I should be very thankful to Muhammad Sabi Ahmed and Afia Rizvi for organizing this event under the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. And then Abdullah Sarkar, Ansab, Amir, all the, my trusted lieutenant, they have already joined. Sayantan Majumdar, where are you from?
Sir, I am from Aligarh Muslim University.
Originally from Aligarh Muslim University, means from Aligarh or somewhere else?
No, I belong to Durgapur in the state of West Bengal.
Oh, that's why I saw your title. Of course, the Sarkar title is deceptive over here. Abdullah Sarkar, when he started talking to him in Bangla, and he said, I'm from Bareilly.
I'm not.
So, Majumdar, thank you for joining. I'm very happy that you have also joined. You all, and I think there must be students from the Pondicherry University as well.
Rajiv Gandhi University, yes.
I think they have.
Rajiv Gandhi University, great. So basically the topic, as has been assigned for speaking, is shaping India, future emerging youth of India. You all know that if you say the human capital, the most important or the vital component of human capital is youth. So when the youth, and of course India, India has got this asset that if youth are skilled, they are emotionally mature, intellectually sound, having rational thinking, scientific understanding, critical reasoning, then that become an asset for the country. So that is why you will find that this initiative has been taken by the government of India, that the youth must participate in the nation building or the state building. And that is why various programs have been announced by the Prime Minister of India or the government of India, where youth are showing their talent and also they are taking initiative. The most important thing is taking initiative. So when youth are ready to take initiative, that is very good for any country. It is not something that is being dictated to you by the bureaucrats or by the people, those who are sitting at the helm of affairs. Rather, you have been provided a space. And when you are getting a space and if you are utilizing that space, keep in mind that the country is going to flourish, the country is going to become great. Another important point that must be, that is also a note of caution. Those who are dealing with the social theories or the social problems, they know that if youth frustration is there, or if the youth anger develops, that is very bad for any country, for any society. So that is why youth from all the communities, all the segment, from all the groups, they should be inculcated the values of what is called unity in diversity. If that value, these values are there inculcated, and if they cherish these values, keep in mind that India is going to be a great country. And it is rightly said that the 21st century will be the century of our country. And I'm very much optimistic, not an incorrigible optimist at all, but I am very much optimistic that when after lockdown you'll find that India is going to reshape not only the future of the country or the region, but also the Asia. So that is why, and again, on the map of the world, when India led the third world countries at that time when the world was divided, and during that period, you will find that the world was divided as first world, second world, third world. So India was leading the third world country, of course, around 80, 90 countries. They were led by India at that time. I'm very much sure that again, India is going to lead, and here the youth has to play a very, very important role. And therefore, you see, what is to be avoided is youth frustration, youth anger. Anger is never the solution. Anger is never the solution of anything, whether it is a problem of unemployment, communism, casteism, whatever. The only thing is emotional maturity, your own, scientific understanding, critical understanding of the things, and then taking initiative to make our society a peaceful society. And you all know that peace is the prerequisite for any kind of development or progress. Peace and progress go together. If there is no peace, progress will not be there. And the last point that I wanted to mention, that those who have already joined, this particular webinar, they must know that there is also what we call digital divide in the country. There are many, many people, and that is not, the few. It is a big chunk of Indian population that is not having access to internet, not having access to, this kind of technology that we have. So while doing anything, this is good that we are using technology, but at the same time, digital divide is to be understood. And that's why knowledge should not become the monopoly of those people, those who are having access to this kind of thing. And here, the youth have to volunteer to go to the areas, go to the people, those who are not having access to the sources of knowledge. And thank you very much for joining this webinar. And thank you once again, Mohammed Sabi and Afia, for organizing this beautiful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's true, K. For this webinar, we really need to thank Sabi and Afia, because I was not in Aligarh, and many people who are associated with UDLC were either not in Aligarh or were not around or were not active. So it was an initiative that
we are missing you, Abdullah Sarkar. Of course, in the virtual space we can meet, but you are not here,
Sure,
and that's why we are missing you. I hope that you are
Sure,
coming
sir.
back soon.
Sure, sir. Inshallah, towards the end of March. And I will definitely make a trip and have a meeting with you. And so this was a meeting that was organized on a short notice, and yet it has been pulled off together very well. And moving forward, I would actually like Ansab Amir to speak a few words about what he
You
believes.
should also introduce Ansab Amir.
Yeah, of course, sir. So Ansab Amir Khan, or Ansab Bhai as he is lovingly known in UDLC, has been our former secretary. He has also been a national champion of debating in the 2018 AIU National Championship. He has also represented India at South Asian University at SAU. And following that, we are here to talk about unity and diversity. So Ansab, would you please be willing to step in here?
Yes, Abdullah, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you to Afia and Sabi for this very beautifully organized event. Before I begin to speak, let me set a very clear set of expectations. Mohib Saab has just spoken before you. And if any one of you were as naive, as gullible to actually believe that I can speak even half as well as Mohib Saab, then you're in for very heavy disappointment. Thank you, Mohib Saab, for that very enlightening address. And also thank you, Siraj Saab, for the very beautiful introduction you gave to the topic. So we are here to talk about just how important the youth are towards the future of India, and how important the unity of India has been towards the progress that we have made so far. Now, I don't need to give you very heavy statistics, very heavy examples, or very concrete, descriptions or reports to actually prove this point to you, as I would have in a debate. Because you see, if you just look around yourself in the computer screen, not actually around your room or wherever you are, you would find that you are joined by beautiful and talented people who are willing to work towards their own betterment, their own improvement in skill set, and to gain knowledge. Now, this very simple subset of people, which we call the youth, is actually the driving force behind any country that has progressed. So it may be the first world countries, it may be the second world countries, or it may be the third world countries that Mohib Saab stated. if you look at the trends of what made US, Russia, and China the pioneers of development, you will find that the wheels of their progress were driven by the engines of youth. Because US became a superpower based on their marketing capabilities. And who drove the markets? Who brought the Silicon Valley revolution? It was not some rich old conglomerate, it was the youth who were bringing in innovation and who were bringing in fresh young blood to the ecosystems. If you look at China, which became the manufacturing hub of the universe, it started when it tapped into the potential of the young people it had in its country. The sheer amount of population of young people of the youth that China had became equivalent to its power to stand shoulder to shoulder with Russia and USA because it harnessed its potential. And now, when India is standing on, the very doorstep of being a superpower, it is not standing just on the basis of its legacy. Of course, India had its beautiful legacy. India has a brilliant tradition of unity, but it is standing here because India's youth is shaping the way forward. When we look at just how important youth has for India, we look at potential that it has. We have highest number of young people in the entire universe. We have the maximum growing population as well as the maximum working population. And that revolution, not just in the technological sphere, but also in the marketing sphere, also in the manufacturing sphere, has led for us to become, a place where people come and seek what can be done in order to improve. We saw that when USSR was, changing the world, when it was marching forward, it collapsed and fell down. Now, there are a number of reasons for it. If we go into history, if we go into sociology, if we go into psychology, there are a number of reasons why a superpower could collapse. But a very simple reason is this, that it did not bank on its youth. It did not trust its youth. When a country as diverse as India, which has people of every religion, which has people of every background, of every socio-economic strata, of every caste, of every creed, and of every color, comes together and pushes out an agenda that is driven, that is motivated, and that is inspirational, only and only then can that country move forward. Now, that is what the youth can do for the country. But of course, there is also something that the country needs to do for the youth. Now, this may not be exactly the famous quotation that you would have heard: do not ask what you can do for your country, ask what you can do for your country. But we also need to ensure that the youth that we have in India is having a multitude of proportions. It has some skills in some areas, but it's lacking some opportunities in some other. There is a person in some distant city who, if properly trained, can spark the next hacking revolution. And also there is another person in a very well-off university, probably studying engineering, who wishes to understand the psychologies and the sociologies of what happened in the past. If that was not clear enough, I'm talking about myself. But yeah, what I was talking about also was the fact that if given the right opportunities, if provided the correct ecosystem, and if provided ample amounts of resources in terms of technology, in terms of the industry, and in terms of the marketing capabilities, India's youth, as diverse as it may be, as different as it may be, can come together and drive this country at the very hilt of the top of the world. And that is where I see India standing in just about a couple of decades. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ansab. Now you can understand the pressure that is on me. Mohib Saab has spoken first, then there was Ansab, and now it's me. So you can definitely understand the kind of pressure I'm under. But when I first received the invite for this from Sabi, it really has to be a stroke of good luck, because I was actually reading an article at that time, and the article was titled "The Myth of Westernization." So it's basically by this one professor at Hawaii Pacific University named Professor John Davidan, and he talks about how the West has always tried to say that we were the ones who brought forth our civilization. And they made an example out of this one young person known as Fukuzawa Yukichi, who is also, if I have to him, I would dub him the Sayyid Ahmed Khan of Japan. So what his ideas were, Fukuzawa, he actually went to the West as a translator, and he saw everything good that was there, and he tried to bring it back towards the youth of the country. But the West has mistook it. They thought that, Japan is being westernized, and hence they actually accept Western supremacy. We saw how that fell out after the Pacific War. But if I may say so, in 2021, Professor John Davidan actually goes on to add that the 21st century is not the century of the West, it's actually the century of Asia. And I need to re-emphasize this point, because if we are smart enough, we can make this the century of South Asia and, Indian subcontinent in particular. And that would actually be very beneficial for all of us around here, because we know that every time sort of economy in the market that goes up, there are a few crashes, of course, that happen from decade to decade. But if we keep investing into our youth, then I think that we may actually have a shot of improving our whole nation as well as our education sector. I mean, if I may say about education sector, we know that India has been lacking when it comes to research and development, for example. So having very specific programs in place that teach you how to research, that teach you what good research is, and specifically with the internet being the biggest disruptor of the entire field, I see that there is a lot of potential when we talk about South Asian relations, and how the power dynamics is now shifting towards the South Asian countries. We have more people here. We still have retained a lot of our power distance. So power distance is basically within the field of business studies. We have this one parameter known as power distance. Power distance basically defines how much respect an employee will pay towards their employer, and that's still pretty high back in India. That's also high in China. Actually, some people are even theorizing that the lack of power distance in the West is actually creating problems within companies, because people are no longer ready to believe or to be led by anyone else, right? And so we have this kind of an opportunity here. Now, I'm not saying that we should exploit weaknesses. That would be that would be the wrong way of putting it. But I will say that this is an opportunity for us to exploit some kind of opportunities that have been presented in front of us. And I see massive opportunities for India's youth to actually go, and specifically within the education sector. I think that if we are able to pull this off, we might have, our very own Khan Academy being born within India. And I do not mean about, the ones that have been taken over by conglomerates, or ones that are run by big, heavy giants, big, heavy corporates. I am a huge believer in, teaching for free to people who need it. And that way we are sort of doing what the universities were built for. We know that the word university comes from the Latin word universitas, which basically means the entire universe. So the entire universe, the learnings that you can acquire from the entire universe can be crunched down within institutions. And that is what universities are for. Sure, not everybody is equally interested in abstract ideas as most people in a university would be. Some people just want to run their own businesses. कुछ लोग होंगे जो कि इस बात में बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं लेंगे कि वर्ल्ड वॉर टू में क्या हुआ था, एंड दैट इज completely fine. Our job as the youth of the nation, the educated youth of the nation, should not be to look down upon them, but rather try to bridge this gap, this sort of intellectual arrogance that comes with every time we sort of make any kind of advancement. This gap, this is also known as intellectual arrogance, it just keeps growing. So we need to bridge this somehow together, and the right way of doing that, in my perspective, would be to bring the lower classes up. And the only way of doing that is to finally open up our pipelines and actually let education flow through us down to those people who are not as privileged as us, who are not as blessed as us to have enough money to study in universities, to actually have been enrolled in traditional universities which will provide them with degrees. Of course, that is important to note, that while we are teaching, and there needs to be some kind of programs out there that actually teach you how to teach, so that there will of course be a lot of differences. And आपको ये बात समझनी ज़रूरी है कि जब भी आप कभी पढ़ाने जाएंगे, जब भी आप कोई ऐसी बात करने जाएंगे, तो डिफरेंस इतना ज़्यादा हो चुका होता है, चाहे वो सोसाइटी की वजह से हो, और इट मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ द कल्चर, बट वो डिफरेंस इतना ज़्यादा हो चुका होता है कि आप पढ़ाने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो आपके जो बहुत ही बेसिक टर्म्स होते हैं, आप नेशन का कंसेप्ट ले जाके आप पूछ लेंगे, तो मान लीजिए कोई रिक्शा चलाने वाले को शायद ना समझ में आए, फॉर एग्जांपल ही वुड बी लाइक क्या नेशन क्या होता है, एंड देन यू विल हैव टू एक्सप्लेन इट, एंड वंस यू एक्चुअली बिगिन एक्सप्लेनिंग इट, यू विल रियलाइज दैट probably you do not have a very concrete definition of a nation yourself. That will be problematic for you, because now we have reached a sort of impasse where you do not know, you have not clarified all of your concepts. The person on the receiving end is already baffled by the terms that you're using. So this pure gap ko bridge karna, I think that should be our aim for the 21st century. I'm not, of course, offering solutions. There are better people than me out there, in the form of policymakers, in the form of educators, in the form of professors, in the form of people who are working for NGOs and are running NGOs, जो ये काम कर रहे हैं, जो इस gap को bridge करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, and that's a really humble attempt. And I think that this is what we should be working towards. अगर हम लोग एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत की बात करते हैं, then it's also important to talk about एक भारतीय श्रेष्ठ भारतीय. And the reason for that is that we need to focus on the individual as well when we talk about nations or nation states. And with that, I guess I would call upon Sabi to take the lead here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Sabi, I wanted to add something. This is
Yes, sir.
thought-provoking,
Sure.
talks by Ansab and then Mohammed Abdullah Sarkar. And you see, Abdullah Sarkar has raised certain very, very important questions that are to be, thought over. We all have to think over it. First of all, you see that what I feel that we have become what is called programmed people. Programmed in the sense that even our thinking process is being controlled. How to think, what to think, and what not to think. That is being also controlled by the people, those who are at the helm of affairs. I'm not talking about in my country. It is the people, those who are controlling everything. So that remote control is to be identified. It was done by Karl Marx in, of course, 19th century. But again, you will find that the new sources of exploitations are emerging. And we are not knowing that who are the exploiters. They are to be, first of all, exposed, number one. And number two, when you are talking about the India or the Asian century, 21st century to be the Asian century, we must include Africa and Latin America as well. Because, Africa, Latin America, and our own Asia, we have some common problems and we have some common issues as well as common values as well. So besides that, what is to be done, and that a lot of emphasis is there nowadays on scientism, empiricism and scientism, that empirical study, scientific study. And what has, because of this, what has happened, that we have stopped asking normative questions. When we are not asking normative questions, we cannot get answer. And the reason is that we are programmed. So that is why the text has been given to us. And we have to discuss only, the everything in the context of that text which has been provided to us. So why don't we develop our own text and the context, and therefore, normative thinking? It means that we should not only make our students to write examination and then secure good marks and go to the foreign universities or, take very good jobs. But the thing is that democracies, themselves all over the world, they are becoming majoritarian democracies. That is, that is the biggest problem today. Globalization is basically leading to unbridled kind of capitalism, and that is leading to exploitation of the people. Competition is rising, which will always create, rift and the fissure in the society, which will not be good. It will also develop social unrest and problem. And the third thing is that you have to go beyond all this, and therefore we need thinking students. We always ask our students to read and write. We don't ask them to think and come out with new ideas. So that is a new ideas are very important. Why only a particular kind of law? There can be better laws. Law always is the will of the the ruling class. So and every law is not a good law. That is to be taught to the student. So that is why every law is not a good law, and that is why Mahatma Gandhi opposed, and our leaders of the freedom struggle, they opposed many laws that were bad. So whether it is at the international level, whether it is international law, I'm giving you one example and then wind up. Why this 12 nautical miles area will be our territorial water? Why not beyond that? And why beyond 12 nautical miles in the sea, in the Indian Ocean, we will see American fleets with nuclear bombs and nuclear weapons? And if the Soviet fleets are going to the Atlantic Ocean, then that will become a threat to American security. What about our security? So who made this law? This the maritime law that we have got. Why this freedom of sea navigation is interpreted in such a manner that it will always lead to the monopolization of benefit, trade and commerce by the major powers of the world? these are the things that we have to ponder over, and that's why normative questions must be asked. Otherwise, theories, ideologies, they won't be there to guide you. Thank you.
That was very enlightening, sir. Sabi, do you want anything to add?
I would prefer that you would add something to it.
Well, actually, what Sir said is something that I agree with a lot, because the way we are actually thinking nowadays, uh, it was not until 2021 that I began reading articles with more seriousness than I usually used to do. And one thing that I noticed is that if you take points from the article, if you make it a point to, sort of summarize the article afterwards, you do a greater job, you do a very much better job at understanding the article. And I think it remains really fresh in your memory. So what you instead end up doing is that you end up creating loci, right? You end up creating different locus points in your brain. And then as new theories come up, they sort of string together themselves around these loci. So as you keep reading, the new loci sort of keep getting added to your brain. And I think that it's really important, for asking normative questions to have proper background, proper reading, but more importantly, as Mohib Sahab pointed out, proper thinking.
Thank you, Abdullah. Now I would like to invite if there are any students from Rajiv Gandhi University who would like to put in their inputs. I guess we have people from there. Vijay Mili. Vijay Mili, can you hear me? Nipipi Tabi, if she can hear me. I guess not.
No, it's completely fine. Sabi, call up Dr. Professor Shambhu and ask him if
I'd like to
he
just
will.
excuse myself for a minute. I would
Yeah,
like
it's completely
call him.
fine. Till then, Ansab and I can have like a discussion over, what Mohib Sahab pointed out.
Yeah, Mohit Saab can add more. About it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think one of the most important questions that Mohib Saab raised was regarding questions as well, because he said something very beautifully that we are now being asked to read text without context. And the very serious art of asking questions and initiating discussions has, for lack of a better word, been subdued in places where that should have been the primary goal, in universities, in teaching institutions, in other public institutions, which began as a source of initiating discussions, creating a roadmap, an agenda which was progressive, which was inclusive. We see ourselves in, not in any particular country but throughout the world, that the simple art of accepting that we might not have every answer, we might not have correct answers, and just because somebody else's answer is different might not mean that that answer is incorrect, is something not just limited to what you write on an answer sheet. It is relevant in your everyday life, it is relevant in public institutions, it is relevant in governance, and much more than that, it is relevant in shaping a moral compass. And I firmly believe, and I'm sure Abdullah, you can shed some light on it, that once we begin to read more, once we begin to incorporate many more worldviews than what we already had, it is only then that we can begin to understand just how little we know.
Yes, it's actually very true.
Ansab, you see one thing, Abdullah and Ansab, adding, whatever you have said, just I'm adding to that point. I'm just giving you one example. You might have seen that in our country, you might have observed that in our country, there are areas that are backward in comparison to many other areas which are considered as developed areas. So, for example, the area that are occupied by the people, inhabited by the people from the tribal community like Datiwada, Bastar, and many other regions, Jangal Mahal, etc. These are the areas that are also disturbed areas, according to the government. Government clubbing these areas are disturbed areas. उसमें अगर एक सवाल आप पूछे उनसे, जो वो आपसे उनके ग्रीवांसेस क्या हैं, वो आपसे कहते हैं कि साहब आप हमसे कहते हैं कि आपको नेशनल मेन स्ट्रीम में आना चाहिए और उसके लिए आपको क्या करना है कि आपको नॉलेज होना चाहिए रिहेबिलिटेशन के लिए. तो हम उनसे क्या पूछते हैं, जो आंसर ने अभी कहा कि अगर डिफरेंट आंसर है तो हम उसको नहीं समझते कि वो सही आंसर है, हम उसको इनकरेक्ट कह रहे हैं. جبکہ ہو سکتا ہے زیادہ اچھا آنسر. ہم ان سے پوچھتے ہیں کہ اے فار ایپل, بی فار بٹر فلائی, ان کے 5 سال کے بچے سے پوچھتے ہیں, 10 سال کے بچے سے پوچھتے ہیں, وہ یقیناً نہیں بتا پائے گا. تو ہم کہتے ہیں کہ وہ نالجبل نہیں ہے, اسے تو اے فار ایپل اور بی فار بٹر فلائی نہیں آتا. بٹ دس مونوپولسٹک نالج جو ہم کو ملا ہے, اس سے الگ ہٹ کر کے اگر کسی آدی واسی بچے سے جو جنگل میں رہتا ہے, اس سے پوچھیے کہ کون سی چڑیا کی آواز ہے, وہ دور سے بتا دے گا. کون سے جانور کی مہک آ رہی ہے آپ کے آس پاس, اس کی بتا دے گا. جانور زندہ ہے یا مردہ ہے یہ بھی بتا دے گا. جنگل میں خطرہ کہاں پہ ہے وہ یہ بھی بتا دے گا. وہ یہ آپ کو بتا دے گا بہت ہی بڑے سے جنگل میں کہ پانی کہاں پہ ملے گا اور کون سے علاقے میں خطرہ ہو سکتا ہے, کون سے علاقے سے آپ گزر سکتے ہیں, جبکہ ہم جا کے کھو جائیں گے. تو وٹ از نالج؟ نالج از دی انڈرسٹینڈنگ آف آور سراؤنڈنگ. تو اس کو اپنے سراؤنڈنگ کی پرفیکٹ انڈرسٹینڈنگ ہے, جو ہمارے ایک فارمل ایجوکیشنل سیٹ اپ میں بچوں کو نہیں ہوتی. ان کو آپ جتنی کتاب میں بتاتے ہیں اے فار ایپل بی فار بٹر فلائی وہی آتا ہے. ان کو جو آپ نے پوئم یاد کرا دی وہ وہی سنا سکتے ہیں. لیکن یہ جو اورل ٹریڈیشن سے ان لوگوں نے جو نالج پرزرو کر رکھا ہے, اور جس کی پوری نالج ہے, اس نالج کو ہم نے کسی بینیفٹ دینے کے لیے اس کو ریکوگنائز ہی نہیں کیا نالج کا. تو الٹیمیٹلی کیا ہوتا ہے کہ یہ جو مونوپولسٹک نالج ہے, جس کو میں کہہ رہا ہوں کہ ہم لوگ پروگرامڈ ہو گئے ہیں, تو الٹیمیٹلی اسی نالج کے پیراڈائم میں ہم بات کرتے ہیں, اور باقی جتنے بھی پیراڈائمس ہیں وہ سب کو ہم ریجیکٹ کر دیتے ہیں. So this way of rejecting the other paradigms, or this way of rejecting all other observations or all distinct kind of opinion and the knowledge system, that is very dangerous for any society. ہماری سب سے بڑی اسٹرینتھ یہ ہے کہ انڈیا از اے کنٹری دیٹ از ناٹ اونلی کنٹری بٹ اے سویلائزیشن. تو وہ جو کمیونٹیز جنہوں نے 5,000-7,000 سال سے اپنے پورے اورل ٹریڈیشن کے ذریعے بچا کے رکھا ہے چیزوں کو, اور ان کے یہاں جو شربس اور ہربس کی پوری نالج ہے, جڑی بوٹی کی, جس کا آج استعمال کر کے لوگ پیٹنٹ کر کے بیچ رہے ہیں اور اربوں روپے کما رہے ہیں, ان بیچاروں کو پیٹنٹ نہیں معلوم ہے. پیٹنٹ ہمارا ہے, بنایا ہوا لا ہے, اور ہم نے ان سے لے کر کے نالج, جو شاید 50 اور 100 روپے دے کر کے ان سے نالج لیتے ہیں اور اس کو پیٹنٹ کرتے ہیں, ہم اربوں روپے کماتے ہیں. Who will address these questions? These questions must be addressed, that the beneficiary, the real beneficiaries, those who should be of this kind of knowledge, this kind of law, they are not there. یہ تو وہ کمپنیز ہیں جو ملٹی نیشنل کارپوریشنز. سو وی ہیو میڈ آور اون لا, اینڈ دیٹ از گوئنگ ٹو provide all kind of benefit to us, and by that way we can monopolize all the benefits. We can monopolize all the offices and honor and the power and the wealth and resources of the society. And those people who are on the margin, they will be further marginalized. And that is never a good trend. This homogenized knowledge that we call, this is not a very good trend.
Thank you, Mohit, for the insightful session. I just talked to Professor Sambhu. He will not be able to join us today. He is in an emergency meeting. He has extended his apologies to us.
Completely fine.
I guess we have had enough of the session. I'd like to invite Afia Rizvi to extend the vote of thanks.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for attending this session and making it so diverse with the ideas everyone has give. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Professor Shambhu for accepting the invitation for the session, and of course for all the students of Rajiv Gandhi University for attending this. And thank you so much, Rajat Mali sir, for attending this session and for all the inputs. And special thanks to Mohibul Haq sir for providing all the guidance, support and help. And now I would like to thanks Ansab Amir and Muhammad Abdullah Sarkar, Secretary UDLC. He is not physically present with us. Sabi?
Thank you so much.
Phone switch.
Thank you so much, Afia. I think Afia's phone switched off. Basically, that's completely fine because since I had already been thanked, I can thank other people now, right? So
Yes, you
yes.
can.
So if I'm moving on, then I would like to thank Sabi Ahmed for, of course, organizing all of this. All the people who joined us, the 30 other odd people who actually took out their times, and you decided to spend your evenings with us. You could have gone out and you could have enjoyed or whatever, but you chose to spend our time. Your time with us. That's really helpful. That's really uplifting. And you chose to, hear Ansab Bhai and I talk so much. So that was really, really, helpful. And, one of the things that I found about talking is that the more you talk, the more you realize about your own thoughts and what were you initially thinking. And we really hope that UDLC continues to host Ek Bharat, Shresh Bharat programs. and we really hope to see you all as an audience there. Perhaps next time we can have proper interaction sessions as well. This time we actually did plan it, but since Professor Shambhu could not be here, we actually planned one with Professor Shambhu. That's completely fine. Sabi, I think your voice is not coming through. It's probably something in your microphone, you know. If you can release your microphone, that would work.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I guess Afia could join in from my video and should be like able to extend the vote of thanks.
All right. Sure.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Sorry for that. That was some technical issue there. So continuing with Abdullah. Thank you so much, Abdullah, for the help you provide. You're not physically present here, but we didn't feel that way, that you are not here with us. So thank you so much for that. And thanks to Ansab Amir Bhai. Thank you so much for the inputs and for the ideas you gave to us. That was so diverse. And of course, I would like to say special thanks to very energetic, the co-convener, Muhammad Sadi Ahmed, for the support, for the help, for the guidance, the way brilliantly he managed this event. Thank you so much, Sadi. And of course, I would like to mention one more thing. Thanks to Shoendan Majumdar and Zaid Khamar for all the technical help to provide to us. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Afia.
I guess that would be the end of it. Mohib Saab, if you have permission, can we end the session today?
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining. See you next time. Okay. Take care, everyone.